Good morning. Let me start with a story today. When I turned 22 years old, Bob, who was my dad's best friend, thought that I was now in perfect age to marry. And he thought that Rob, his son, was the perfect candidate. So every time I spoke to Bob on the phone, every time we met, he would say, "You and Rob would be the perfect couple. Please meet my son. I can see you and Rob, really hang it off." But of course, the more he insisted, the more I resisted. You see, I lived in Montreal, French suburbia, right here, and that's the crazy accent you hear if you were wondering. I'm sometimes told that I sound like Celine Dion, just when I speak. And so I did not want to leave my hometown, so the more Bob insisted, the more I resisted. But 4 years of total harassment later, I finally said, "Okay, Bob, just so you get off my case. I will meet Rob, I will meet him once, and then let's be over with this conversation." And so Bob said, "I'll shake on that deal, sounds good to me." And so he organized the first date, for which I got ready with the same level of excitement as I do when it's time to clean the garage. And I went through the motions just to prove to myself that Rob and I weren't meant to be. But somehow at the end of the first date, Rob, I guess, had not gotten the vibe, said, "How about we go out again tomorrow?" And well, I had nothing better to do the next day, and I was in Canada, he earned US dollars. Sure. I said yes to the second date. And I said yes to a third date. Did I forget to mention that Robert lived in Philadelphia? I forgot to mention that, didn't I? Rob lived in Philadelphia. That's why I did not want to leave my hometown, and that's why I did not want to meet him. So I said yes to a second date, and I said yes to a third date. And at the end of that third date, when Rob leaned at the back of his truck to wave me goodbye, I just felt something in me. And how about that sound, people? How about the sound? Are we not plugged in with the sound? Wow, this is just starting really strong. Well, you were supposed to hear Highway to Hell. I just knew at that moment that I was on the highway to hell because I was getting involved in a long-distance relationship, and everybody who's been in one knows how hard this is. But fast forward 15 years later, and today I do not want to know what my life would be like had I not said yes to this first, second, and third dates. I do not want to know where I would be had I not dared to try something different. So now let's turn our attention to you. How many of us wake up every morning thinking, today will be a great day? Not even one hand? Okay, so how about we dare to try something different? This is what I'd like us to do this morning. Because if you don't wake up this way, then we can't blame your employees if they don't wake up that way either, right? And I hear that the talent war is pretty fierce here in the Green Bay area. And so if we want to win the talent war, I think that making sure we all get up with this kind of enthusiasm is the best defense we can think about. Defense, that's a word we hear a lot here, isn't it? A word we understand, right? It's the best defense for the war on talent. So let's get started. And I want to talk today about how and why we can all create the culture we want to be in from the inside out. Let's not wait for a big organizational restructure with charts and graphs and tables to fill and like this big communications plan that it will trickle down from the top. Let's make it happen inside of us and let it radiate onto our teams, onto our peers, so that they feel the change, so that they are enthused by it and continue on radiating their own teams and peers and coworkers. Does that sound good? So we're going to start this journey with what I call the red challenge. I'm about to show you a collage of images, and your job is to spot and remember everything that you will see on this collage that is red. Now don't take notes because this is an exercise in focus and memory. After 25 seconds, I will switch the slide over, and I want you to count on your fingers. Don't say it out loud because you may remember something your neighbors doesn't remember. So count on your fingers and let me know how many red elements you still can remember. Does that sound good? All right, 25 seconds, begin now. And time. All right. So count on your fingers. Try to remember how many red things can you remember. And if we remember at least 4 red things, please stand up. I'm going to make you stand a couple times today. I don't want you to die too soon. So that's all of us. Okay, everybody in this room can remember at least 4 red things. All right, now let's count down. How about 5? Sorry, let's count up. How about 5 red elements? Still all of us. 6. Great memories in Green Bay. How about 7? Okay, more people are sitting down at 7. 8. 9. Okay, and then 10 or more. Let's applaud the people with the best memories. So the average was about 7 or 8 red things, because there were 10 or more, right? We didn't continue to count up, but there was more than 10 elements that we could have remembered. All right, now the question you did not anticipate. How many green elements can you now remember? Take a quick second to think about it. And if you can remember 4 green things, please stand up. Nobody? 1 person, 2, 3. 4 green elements. How about 3 green elements? This time we're going to count down. 2. All right, and that's probably where our average is going to be, around 2 green elements. Thank you, everybody, for participating. If you look at my collage one more time, you will notice that we have about the same number of red as we do green. But you remembered nearly 4 times more red than you did green because this is what you were focusing on. So the point of this exercise is to show you that it doesn't matter what's in our environment. What matters is what we focus on. The lens through which we look at the world shapes our reality. So as you go through your days, as you go to work, as you think about your spouse, your family members, your loved ones, your whole life, are you looking for what's wrong in the world and how you have to fix it? Or are you looking for what's right and how to build from there? That shift in perspective can bring massive differences in how you feel and how you perform. Let me share the results of a research study with you. 2 groups of bowlers had the chance to be filmed so that they could then look at those tapes and be told by a coach how to improve their performance. Team A was coached in this fashion. Here's what you're doing right, how you line up your elbow, your foot, how far back your arm reaches, these kinds of things. Here's what you're doing right, do more of it on your next game. Team B was coached in the reverse fashion. Here's what you're doing wrong, how you're angling your foot, your elbow, how far back you're reaching, how far out your arm goes. Try and avoid doing that on the next game. Guess which team improved the most? Team A, exactly. They are more encouraged, they know exactly what it is that they have to do, and they went and did it, so their score improved more. So let's use this information for the good of our work cultures. So what does that mean? It means that instead of worrying about whether your employees are looking for a better job, that would be the fix what's wrong approach, how about we better the jobs they already have? That's the build from what's right approach. Now you may wonder, sounds good, how do we do it? Well, let's begin. I'd like to start by giving you one quick anecdote. One day I am playing in the yard with James, whom at the time was 2 years old, and I think that he might have put mulch in his mouth. Now I completely freak out because when I was a teenager I had to put down a dog for eating mulch. So I'm like, James, open your mouth. Mom's got to see what's in there. And he goes, mm-mm. James, it's really important that you open your mouth. Mom has got to see if you've put mulch in there. Mm-mm. James, please open your mouth. Mm-mm. And I'm like, okay, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expect different results. I got to come up with something better. James, where's your tongue? Ah! When you change the questions that you ask, you change the results that you get. You change the answers people are coming up with, right? So I'm sure a lot of you have heard about the gratitude exercise. The gratitude exercise research was done and replicated many times where participants were asked at the end of each day to write down 3 things they were grateful for and why they thought that happened for them. After doing this exercise for a month, people felt happier. They had trained their brain to look for what's right as opposed to continuously, criticizing inside of themselves everything that's wrong. At the 6-month follow-up, whether they continued the exercise or not, participants were still happier than they had been prior to doing this exercise. Now, the research has been done many times, replicated, results are valid, we know all of that. But through some of the replications, here's the part that most people miss, some participants started to feel like it was forced. At first it's good, right? I'm grateful for a loving husband. I'm grateful for the sunshine. I'm grateful for having a job. And over the course of the month, we start being grateful for things that are not quite as obvious, things that we may have taken for granted. Like, I am grateful for a fully able body. I am grateful for the opportunity to live in a country that gives me freedom of speech and religion. How often do we feel grateful for that? Ever? Right? So the activity helps us to get deeper as we do it over more days. But after a while, people feel like, okay, well, I've kind of been around the block a few times now, so I don't know what else to feel grateful for, and I don't want to keep on just repeating myself. So varying your questions can bring additional benefits. So here are my selection of favorite positivity-inducing questions. Each of these questions is based on some of the positive psychology pillars, so we know that they are getting people to think about things that truly matter in life, things that help us flourish. So for example, when were you most engaged today? That's a very good question to help us realize that we're not always just waiting for 5 or 6 o'clock when it's time to go home for the day to have ended. Sometimes it's really worthwhile to pause and notice that we were most engaged at some point during our workday. And engagement is intrinsically rewarding. So when we realize that we are most engaged at work, we can reframe how we view work for something that becomes more positive. Whom did you support or who supported you today? You realize, whoa, it's 3:30 in the afternoon and all I've done is type away emails and look at reports in my office. Maybe it's time I step out. Maybe it's time I go see someone, because that's what brings meaning to my day, right? What brought meaning to your day? Connecting with coworkers, helping clients, making the difference for somebody within the organization. What are you most proud of? Maybe it was a hard day. Maybe it's been one of those days where you just hit obstacle after obstacle and nothing seems to run your way. But maybe you can be proud of how you comported yourself through it all. Maybe you can be proud that even though it was a tough conversation with X, Y, and Z today, you got your point across in a respectful manner. What did you learn that was helpful? Good question for kids, teenagers who had a bad day at school. And when none of that works, if even the best part of your day was not all that great, then you can ask yourself, what are you looking forward to? And the goal is not to bury our head in the sand and pretend that life is rose. The goal is to help us tackle life with a little bit more resilience. Let's not bathe in that negativity that we might have just faced. Let's just, rise above the water and see if we can take a deep breath and realize that not everything is gloom and doom. Now, how can we use the positivity questions? We can use them by ourselves at home, either to start the day on a positive note, to close the day on a positive note, on your commute home maybe, in order to kind of get home fresh for your loved ones as opposed to, bring all of the stress from work back home. You can also use it at work as a meeting starter. So imagine you have a meeting with your team, and before starting with the agenda, you want to get some positive vibes flowing. And so you could ask, okay, so let's just think about whom do we support best as a team? Or what brings meaning to our work together? Or what do we believe will be the best part of whichever project we're working on today? Something like that, just to get people in a positive mind frame. You can use it as well in an advertising campaign. So this is for the HR/wellness managers in the room. You can print little posters that you may put inside the bathroom stalls or in the mirror, or you can do a text messaging campaign asking the positivity questions just so the ideas pop up in people's brains, right? What's the best part of your day? What brings meaning to your day? Whom do you support? When are you most engaged? Things like that. What are you grateful for in this moment? And you can also use them to try and boost someone after handling a complaint or a tougher conversation. Again, you're trying to, give the person appropriate empathy, appropriate response, but then you don't want to leave them bathing in negativity. So you say, I've heard you, I see the concern, I see the challenge, and I empathize, whatever you might normally say, and then you end, but I don't want you to leave, this conversation still feeling depleted. So just let me ask you, what can you be proud of through this challenge? Or what are you learning that will be helpful so that you help them find a place of greater resilience for themselves? Now, as you start sprinkling in more positivity vibes with those positivity questions throughout your organization and your teams, people are going to start to feel a lift in happiness. This is what I've shared at first that the research says. When we start focusing on what's right, we feel a lift in happiness. Now, further research also tells us that when we are happier, we become more accepting of others. Our definition of who is in our in-group, who understands us, who thinks like us, whom we can relate with, becomes a little bit broader. And as we broaden that perspective, we are more accepting of others, and we interact with them in a friendlier way. As we become friendlier towards them, they respond in the same way. So we also start to feel more accepted, which further boosts our happiness. So here we can create a virtuous circle of one good thing leading to another. And while I want us to focus on building from what's right, I also want us to notice that 40% of our workforce nowadays feels lonely. And that includes 50% of CEOs. In fact, public health experts say that this is one of the most important public health and social crises of our times. So if 40% of our workforce is lonely, and Joel said earlier, number 2 is usually depression and anxiety, well, loneliness is part of what fuels that depression and that anxiety. So this is a way to start breaking that vicious circle with an upward spiral. Sorry for the French. Now, having happier employees, I'm sure that most people in this room are going to be sold on that, but you may have to sell the concept to your CFOs and other show me the money kind of people. So here are the arguments that you can do it with. Well, first of all, happier employees are more fun to be around. They are better liked and easier to deal with. But it goes further than that. They are less likely to get sick and experience symptoms. And we know that through some research where we have injected the virus of the flu through people's noses and then kept them in quarantine for a full week so that we could, and in quarantine in completely sanitized conditions where they could be in contact with no one so that we could really see who has developed the flu and who has not. And what we found was the best predictor of who actually got sick or not was how happy they were prior to the nose injection. Can you imagine that? And now, of course, some of the people who caught the flu were very happy before. It's not, 100% of the happy people did not get the flu. But those who did catch the flu that were previously very happy were not so bothered by the symptoms. They would say, yeah, I have a bit of a cold instead of, oh, this is just nasty. They could deal more easily. We know that they are better organizational citizens. Happy individuals and happy employees are the ones who will volunteer to train the newbie to the group, who will be on the committee to organize the holiday parties and do these extra things. They're the ones who are saying, I'm gonna clean the kitchen fridge this month because it's in need of it. They are better ambassadors, so they talk about your organization in better terms when they talk to their neighbors, their families, their friends. So that also widens your pool of applicants. It helps you win the talent war when you are now opening up a new position. They are better decision makers, and we know that because we have offered participants a choice between 6 cars, each varying along 9 dimensions. And the study was designed so that there was one option that was better than the other ones, and people who were happier were more likely to discover that and be able to, take away the information that wasn't quite so relevant and make the more optimal choice more often. They are more creative, as I said earlier. Our blinders kind of open up. We get out of fight or flight when we are happy and go into broaden and build, so we can see the world more broadly, like more of a bird's eye perspective where we take into account more factors than just what's right in front of us. They are perceived as more competent, probably because of what's above. They sell more. In fact, research has been done with a group of insurance salespeople, and the top 10 most optimistic individuals sold 80% more than the bottom 10 least optimistic or most pessimistic individuals. So they are better salespeople because they don't spend as much time feeling sorry for themselves when they hear a no. They're right back at it quicker. They're promoted more often, and because of everything that I've just mentioned, they are also less likely to burn out. So those are all important things that we consider in HR, and those are all things that you can reap through higher happiness. Now, of course, not all positive emotions are created equal. So which do you think have the strongest potential for a deep impact on you, your teams, your organization? Which two? No, not that one. Silence, not a response. Which 2 positive emotions do you think have the strongest potential to achieve a deep impact? Or which are most long-lasting? Still no? Pardon? Gratitude. Gratitude is actually a very good one, and it kind of is in the background, but the 2 that I have in mind are love and meaning. When you add love and meaning to any situation, what was previously impossible becomes possible. Just imagine working for a boss who's a dictator with unpredictable mood swings, who screams when things don't go his way, who can cry, can throw a tantrum on the whim, and who expects your devotion 24/7 at any random moment. If that was your boss, you would say, I'm not paid enough for this right? But when this tiny little dictator is not your boss but your child, you do it gladly and for free. Because there's love and meaning. So I'm going to spend the rest of today talking how we can build more love. Yes, I did use the L word at work. Love and meaning. So he who has a why to live can bear any how. So how can we build more meaning? Not so we can impose further stresses on people, but so that they handle the stresses they already have more efficiently. In this research study that I want to share with you, participants were hikers, and they were asked to carry a backpack up a hill, and at the top of the hill, they were asked to estimate how steep the hill that they had just climbed was. The first group of hikers were told, you are carrying nothing but dead weight, and they estimated the hill to be at 42 degrees. The second group of hikers were told, you are carrying important scientific equipment which we will need at the top. These people estimated the hill, same hill, to be at 31 degrees. Big difference. The people who thought that their job had meaning were more resilient and found it easier. The people who thought that their job was meaningless found it a lot more hard, a lot more painful. So how can we inject more meaning? Now, if we inject more meaning into our lives and into what we do day to day, we're not only going to improve our resilience, we're also improving our health results. So what we know is that if meaning was a pill, the company who would have brought it to market would make billions, if not trillions. People who have more meaning have fewer chances of heart attack, stroke, and Alzheimer's. People who have more meaning in their lives are more relaxed during the day and tend to sleep better at night. Meaning is also known to increase good cholesterol and repair our DNA, and it helps reduce inflammation and cortisol. Now, what we know about cortisol is that we all run too high on it. Cortisol is the stress hormone for those long-term stresses. Not, oh, there's a bear, I gotta run away, but more, I have a never-ending, nagging to-do list to accomplish every day. Anybody? More hands going up this time. Right? So we run too high on cortisol, and what we know cortisol does is that it causes high sugar, high fat, high salt food cravings. That's why we crave that bag of chips or that extra sweet coffee at 3 in the afternoon. The buildup of cortisol is just pushing us towards those foods. We know that cortisol makes us more irritable, more impatient, more anxious. And we know that it causes insomnia so that we can't sleep well at night. And when we don't sleep well at night, cortisol buildup continues and we are sure to repeat that whole same cycle the next day. More meaning in our lives reduces cortisol. And meaning is also known to add years to our life, not just life to our years. So we want more meaning. Let's say it. We want more meaning. Want more meaning. Want more meaning. All right, thank you. So we do want to have more meaning because it improves our resilience, because it improves our health results, and it improves our work results. No matter what job category you're looking at, research has been done in all kinds of job categories, but let's look at janitors. Some janitors have a job. They want to clock in and clock out and go home with a paycheck. Other people have a career. They're trying to gravitate to the higher echelon. They're looking for advancement, social status, recognition. And yet other people have a calling. And if you're a janitor who has a calling, let's say you work in a hospital, you go above and beyond to make sure that even the frames on the walls are not crooked and that everything looks impeccable because you are a member of the recovery team. And when this dude who's in the coma right now in this bedroom wakes up, he will see that he is in an environment where people have cared for him. And when he feels that way, it will give him a reason to live. That's how janitors who have a calling view their job. So they go above and beyond, they don't miss as many days, and they are a lot more engaged in what they do. So we want to have more meaning, right? Well, what we need to do to have more meaning is eliminate some of the meaningless noise that we all live with, right? We act as if everything we have to do is of ultimate importance, yet we can't remember half of what we've done yesterday. So was it really that important? How much of that can we actually set aside without losing out on what we actually truly have to do? So here's the exercise that I'd like to suggest to help you discern. As you look at your calendar, it could be at the beginning of each day or at the beginning of each week. That was discreet. Ask yourself, is this activity helping anyone? If so, focus on whom and how as you do it. It will bring up the meaning of it. Ask yourself, is this supporting important values, either your personal values, the organizational values, or universal values? If so, which values is this supporting? Maybe you're helping the underserved, maybe you're helping the environment, maybe you're helping a population of people who is super stressed and who needs a break. Right? So if it's helping anyone, focus on whom it is helping. If it is supporting values, focus on those values. It will bring more meaning. And is this making the world a better place in any way? And if so, as you do it, tell yourself how you are making the world a better place. It will help you feel like you're not carrying dead weight, but carrying some important equipment. If you say no to all three questions, let me ask you, why is it still in your agenda? Maybe you're still reading periodicals that have lost their value for you over the years because now you know you can say in advance everything that will be in it. Maybe you're producing a report on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, but monthly would be enough because the level of detail isn't helping anyone that much anymore. Maybe you're sitting on a committee that needed your leadership to get off the ground, but now that they are off to the races, they no longer need your specific involvement. Maybe you could go every quarter instead of every month. And you can remove some activities from your calendar here or there so that we're not always so, stuck with the pace of change and the number of duties that we have to handle on a day in and day out basis. And the things that are staying, you will know are meaningful. Now, this is also something that you do with your teams, with your employees, with your groups to help them also discern what needs to stay, what needs to go, and to do better the things that are actually staying. Now, as you start sprinkling in more positive emotions and more meaning throughout your organization and your own life, you can become a positive energizer. Now, this is a really important thing to be, and we're going to talk about that in just 1 minute. But before I do that, let me define what a positive energizer is. If I come in contact with Kristen, and as a result of our conversation, I feel a little bit better than I was previously. I feel like she shared some of her positivity and her energy with me, such that I am now fueled a little bit more, then Kristen is a positive energizer to me. And if she also feels the same way, then I am a positive energizer to her. So this is the fancy definition. How do you feel after meeting that person? Now, I'd like you to hear a word from Kim Cameron, who is the lead researcher on positive energizers. Oh, we have it.
Well, the heliotropic effect can be illustrated in the following way. If you put a plant in the window, over time it will lean toward the light, which is an example of the heliotropic effect. That is, every living system, everything alive, from single-cell organisms to complex human systems, has a tendency toward the light and away from dark, or toward positive energy away from negative energy. In the nature, the sun is the source of positive energy with photosynthesis and so on. Or most accurately defined, the heliotropic effect is every living system has a tendency toward that which is life-giving away from that which is life-depleting, which makes sense. Think of evolutionary processes. Everything alive is attracted to that which gives life, repelled by that which endangers or detracts from life.
So if you are a positive energizer, people are attracted to you and to your energy, and that makes you more influential. That actually is 4 times as good or better predictor about your performance level than your specific spot in the organigram of your company. Companies that have 3 times more positive emotions than, positive energizers than regular companies are also higher performing. So positive energizers improve their own performance as well as that of the organization. When you are a positively energizing leader, your team's performance increases. People feel like they are safe with you. They become more creative. They become more engaged. They are more willing to try things out. They feel like they are safe around you, so their personal well-being increases. And the benefits are even trickling down all the way to the fact that when they go home after a long day of work, they are more positive with their family members so that the family also reaps some of the benefits. Isn't that beautiful? So being a positive energizer is something that helps you, that helps your organization, that helps your employees and their families. And I'm not just saying that because there's been a good research project about this, by the way. There are hundreds of studies conducted by different researchers with different research questions in universities and even in business and consulting groups. They have different research designs and they all get to the same conclusion. So that's the beauty of it. And I'm sure that nobody here in this room is going to be super surprised at those results, but I'm just saying that they are grounded in sound, deep, and multiple kinds of different research. Now, if you want to be a positive energizer, we have to make sure that you are positively energized yourself. So what do you think is the #1 intervention ever tested to boost your own mood? The most reliable way to boost your own mood that we've ever researched? A sunny day, yeah, that helps, that's true. But we can't randomize people to, you're going to go to a sunny day, you're going to go to too much snow. Any guesses? Puppies? Well, they can help too, but again, hard to randomize. No, it is random acts of kindness. So students were given $20 and half of the group was told, go have fun, spend it on yourself, do what you want. The other group was told, here's $20, go spend it on somebody else, go make their day, come back and report. The people who spent the $20 on somebody else trying to make somebody's day came back with the higher lift in mood and a more lasting one. So when we do a random act of kindness for somebody else, first we feel good that somebody else's day was made, but also it helps us have a better image of who we are and it makes us feel higher self-esteem as a result of that. One day my husband came home with a large bunch of roses. It was my birthday, and I didn't even have a vase big enough in the house to hold them all. So we decided to go a little bit early to the restaurant where we were going to celebrate and to just offer some roses to random people on the street. And that was a lovely moment, and I won't even get into the impact that we feel like some of those roses had on some of the women, but it was a really, really good time for us, probably even more than for the women who received the roses. So when you do your random acts of kindness, just like the positivity questions, it's good to vary them. It's good to switch it up so that it doesn't become one more item on your to-do list. Having said that, I know that some of you need a system that will be reliable and that you want to do the same thing over and over again. So here is a group of CEOs with thousands of employees who have figured out enough time to write cards, whether birthday cards, thank you cards, congratulations cards, you mean the world to me cards, you've done so well cards, to their employees over the years. And they swear by the effectiveness of having done that, what it did for the engagement and the culture of their teams. Now, if you feel like this was a little too many cards for your liking, you don't have to go quite to that extent, and it still works. Now, if you want to do that, if you want to make sending card your thing, 4 pieces of advice. First, be personal. Dear Mike, I have seen you work with this customer on that day, and this is what you did. I was really flabbergasted at how courteous you were, even though the client was not quite that nice towards you. You handled it like a pro. You be very specific about what happened, and that will make the card meaningful. Keep stationery handy, because when the fancy strikes you and you have an idea, you don't want to lose it, you can write it right away. That way it doesn't become one more thing on your to-do list. You just take 2 minutes right here and now and you do it. And have a system. Now, what do I mean by a system? Maybe it could be something like this grid that I have right now on the slide. Do I know you? Most of us can fill some of the boxes here. We know Leslie's mom's name. We know that Tom has 2 kids, but we're not sure what age. We know that, Angela goes to church. We're not sure which one, right? How about we build that chart and we try and make sure that we know all of the answers to our closest peers. So, do they have a significant other? How long have they been together? What's their name? Do they have kids? How old? How many? What's their names? Do they have pets? What kind? What's the name? Are the parents still alive? What are the names? Who are their siblings, if they have any? What's their birth order? Do they have a favorite hobby, a favorite holiday? What's meaningful in the yearly calendar to them? All sorts of things like that. You can customize this to your own needs and to what you feel you want to know about your team. Maybe you want to know what their favorite restaurant is because at some point you're looking to going out on a dinner date with them. Who knows? You fill it out, and as you meet people at the water cooler, instead of complaining about traffic or the weather or how cold it is for the time of year, you can now ask them to tell you about meaningful things in their lives. I'm so sorry, I know you have 2 kids, but I'm just realizing I don't even know how old they are, right? And now you figure out a little bit more about who they are truly as a person, not just a worker. They feel seen, heard, and understood as you fill out more details of their lives through this, and that can give you really good material to write your cards later on. Or forget about the cards. Good material to have more meaningful conversations so that you can bond on a much deeper level. So challenge yourselves to fill out the Do I Know You grid with more and more individuals. You can even break it out to them. Hey, I'm trying to find out as much as I can about all of the people that I work with very closely, and I've just realized that there's 3 things I really need to know about you. Nobody will be offended. People will be like, wow, he's really taking this seriously. They will likely be impressed. And as we do that, we're going to start to connect more meaningfully with people. And there are, again, hundreds of different research studies, different research designs that show us that when we are more socially connected, we are happier, healthier, and we live longer. And here I would love to describe to you each of these research projects, but let me just tell you that there is one research that's been done in physiology here to know what happens inside the body as we connect with people. One research is a longitudinal study that looked at people over over a period of 75 years. The same participants were followed for 75 years at Harvard Medical School. Of course, not all the participants made it that long. Some people died before. And then the other one is the Blue Zones, whom we've already heard about, where we studied centenarians and tried to identify what do they do differently. So those are just examples of different research studies and designs that led to the conclusion that when we are more socially connected, we are healthier, happier, and we live longer. Now, from a work perspective, we can also derive some very good HR buzzwords that come from being more connected with our peers. First, we go from me to we. It's not about the rat race anymore and all about me and how can I stand out, right? It's about how are we doing as a team because my team members care for me and I care for them. Simple reciprocity. It helps with collaboration. I know that Jack has my back and I'm going to have his too. It helps with innovation because now people feel like they have the psychological safety to express ideas that are out of the box. So they're not afraid to be ridiculed, and so they speak up more willingly. It helps with adaptability. Anybody goes through change ever at work? Right? Change is the constant. And when there is change, there is pain. Somebody did not get something they were hoping for through the change process. Somebody else got something they were hoping not to get. A key team member was moved to a different team. Somebody was laid off. And that leads to pain. But when you feel like your coworkers have your back and you're going through this together as opposed to each individual person on its own, it helps you be more adaptable. It helps with talent retention, winning the talent war again. Joel said earlier, most people who leave don't leave a job, they leave a boss and a situation they're not comfortable in. So it helps with talent retention. When you feel like your boss and your team members really care about you, you're not sure that the next team will do the same thing. So you're going to stick around a little bit longer for sure. It helps with service quality. When my emotional needs are met, I am better prepared to meet that of others. And it helps with engagement, obviously, employee and customer engagement. But don't take my word for it. Let's do an experiment. Let's see if this stuff works on us. So take a moment to look inside of you, and on a scale from 0 to 10, 0 being tired and 10 being energized, where are you in this moment? Again, 0 to 10, are you bored or inspired? Are you feeling mainly negative emotions or positive emotions? And are you ready for a nap? Or are you ready for action? Compute your score out of 40. And now what I would like you to do is to get together with the other peers that are sitting at the same table as you are, and together we are going to make some music. So one of you at each table is going to say, I'll be the drummer. And the drummer will start to drum some beat. And it can be something that we all know, very simple. Or the drummer might feel a little fancy this morning and go for, right? Whatever you want to do, whoever says I'm the drummer, you're going to drum one beat consistently for 1 minute. And everybody else at your table is going to join in with something of their own. They might do, maybe they have a pen, a water bottle they can make a sound with, maybe they can sing and they're going to want to do something with their voice. Whatever you want to do, you have 1 minute to be a mini orchestra. Go for it. Now, how was that for you? I just heard, I'm a good drummer. All right, so take the pulse one more time. How do you feel this minute now? Tired or energized, bored or inspired, negative or positive, ready for a nap or ready for action? And if you have increased by even just 1 point, stand up. And look at that. It's almost all of us, right? And we are now more ready for more meaningful work because we have connected with other individuals. Thank you very much. Please sit. So the social connection helps with our health and it helps with our productivity. Now let me tell you about how it helps with the team spirit, and I'd like to introduce you to Captain William Swenson, who won the Congressional Medal of Honor, which is the highest honor you can win in the military for valor. And before draping the medal around his neck, President Obama recounted that on the morning of September 8th, 2009, a column of American and Afghan troops made their way up a windy trail in the hope of going to meet with some village elders. But as soon as the first soldier reached the outskirts of the village, the whole column was ambushed and attacked by 60 well-trained, well-armed, well-positioned enemy fighters. Mortar, rocket-propelled grenades, and machine gun fire poured from 3 sides. It led to a fierce, bloody, deadly 6-hour battle. But like all good leaders, Captain Swenson was also a servant. And he ran across 50 meters of open space to go retrieve the dead and rescue the wounded. He put them on a medevac helicopter. And by coincidence, one of the medevac helicopter's rescuers had a camera attached to his helmet and was able to capture some images of what happened that day. One of the men that Captain Swenson rescued was Sergeant Westbrook. And Westbrook had received a gunshot to the neck. And after placing Westbrook on the medevac helicopter, and before running back into more live fire to save more lives, and despite the tremendous stress that he was clearly under, Captain Swenson took the time to bend down and give his wounded peer a kiss. And you're just about to see it on the video. There it was. Did you see it? Machine gun fire, rocket-propelled grenades, people dying all around, did not stop him from taking 2 seconds to give his peer a kiss, a simple gesture of care, compassion, and connectedness. We go to work every day and we sometimes don't have time to say hello. No live fire. So let's think about that for a quick second. And when you ask people like Captain Swenson, why did you do it? The answer is always the same, because they would have done it for me. It's about meaning, and it's about love, and it's about reciprocity. And think about that for yourself. We treat others very much the same way they tend to treat us, right? I have worked for wonderful bosses, and let me tell you that I worked my butt off every day to make sure that we met their objectives, that they looked good, that they were proud of me, and that their superiors were happy with what their team was doing. And I have worked for miserable bosses, and I was going to bed at night trying to figure out how I could possibly retaliate without getting caught. So knowing that others treat us the way we tend to treat them, how about we are the ones to break the cycle? How about we are the ones who will first say, I got your back? And I'd like to suggest a way to get that done. And to do that, I would like to ask for a volunteer to come up with me. And this volunteer will have to share some good news, probably work-related good news with the rest of us. And I will model 3 different kinds of responses. And then the volunteer will tell us very briefly how they felt about my response. So who's willing to come up? And we're probably going to need to use this microphone. Welcome. What's your name? Jim. Ah, that subtle crackling again.
I struggled with the drumming.
Okay, but
So
you're going to master.
I have to make up to my table here. So.
But you're going to master this part, I'm
All
sure.
right.
All right,
Okay.
Jim. So let us hear your good news. And first of all, let me just warn everybody, I'm going to model a passive kind of response.
So the good news is we heard from a gentleman from Precision about a real success story. I think we've got one going here. I stepped up. I'm part of Robin with Health Partners, but we're 2.5 years into it, and we're off to a great start. So feels like a good success story.
Very good. I'm happy for you.
Well, that's very nice. Thank you.
Do you feel seen, heard, and understood?
Oh, absolutely not.
Right. Yet, Isn't that the most common response we usually give our people, our coworkers, somebody that's not super close to us, even sometimes people who are really close to us? Good for you, that's awesome, right? Isn't that super common? This is the most common response we offer when we hear good news. Now, let me hear your news one more time, and this time I'm gonna model a destructive kind of response. I'm gonna channel my inner...
I can't wait.
Let's hear your good news one more time.
We're off to a great start. Got a program going. We're generating a lot of good membership, and January's looking really good.
Yeah, well, just be careful because, people often think that they are off to a great start, but that's before the complexities of real life actually show up. You're starting something new, everybody's energetic, but have you got a plan for when people's energy are gonna go down and when they're gonna be it's January, it's cold, days are short.
Guess I'll lower the bar. Yeah.
Okay, so in this context, it might seem slightly inappropriate, but maybe your spouse came home one day and told you that he or she got a promotion, and your response might have been, oh, well, I don't care how much longer your days are, I don't have time to pick up the kids from school. I can't line up in that carpool, right? Ever heard that kind of response? Yes? Destructive was that modeling. Now I'm gonna model something that is active and constructive. So
I'm shortening my story.
Well, give me a little something to go on about.
Okay.
This is going to be a much better response.
Let's see. The Packers are doing very well. We're off to it. You want work again?
Yes, the same one, the same one.
I'm trying to switch it up here so I don't get beat up.
You don't have to.
No. So we're a young organization, and I really feel good about what we're doing in the marketplace. Our January one is looking very good. A lot of great people. Things are nice.
Well, tell me a little bit more. So you say a lot of great people. How did you find these great people?
Well, some I've known for a number of years. Some really worked and found some really good talent. And we've got a real cohesive team. A lot of collaboration among the team. We've got a great support office back in Bloomington. So it's really come together nicely.
Tell me about your culture. You're saying very supportive. So how does that manifest?
Well, I like to beat up on the people all the time that I work with. So it's not entirely true. No, I try to listen. I try to be a very, very supportive individual. I try to be grounding. Am I successful in that all the time? Probably not.
Well, we're humans.
Yeah.
Yes. And when you're saying we're going to be strong in January, what are you expecting will happen?
Good membership numbers.
Numbers.
Yes. Membership employees coming into the plan.
So you're ramping it up, and you feel like it's going to be a really good strong for the new year?
Yeah. Well, we have Robin who's over here. Where's Robin? One of our new January 1 customers. So that's great. So yeah.
I can see that you're already recognizing other people. So I'm sure that you will be successful, and I wish you all the best.
Well, thank you very much. I like that one better.
Yes. Thank you, Jim. So I did take an extra minute on that third type of response to ask some questions so that Jim could delve a little bit deeper into the good news that he was sharing with me. How we respond to good news is a much better predictor of the health and longevity of our relationship than is how we respond to bad news. Yet when people give us bad news, we usually give them the time of day, try and be supportive and all that fun stuff. And when they give us good news, we try and just say, awesome, I'm busy, right? So try and use more active, constructive responding. Ask some open-ended questions when people share good news with you so that they can delve a little bit deeper, and then you might learn something that can be part of the Do I Know You chart, who knows, right? So active, constructive responding, very good way to let people know that you have their back. Now, one day, my husband came home with some really, really good news about how he was finally making the one move he needed to make the career change that he wanted to make, and I gave him my best, funniest, silly dance I was capable of. I did not ACR him, I danced for him, and it looked like this. Is it time to stand up? You want to dance? Let's do it, let's do it, let's do it. Go Packers, let's stand up. We can do it, we don't want to die. The more you sit, the sooner you die. Let's not do that. Pump to the left. Woo! Pump to the right. Yay! And twirl. Woo! Some hips. Whoa, yeah. Other way. And sit them down. Thank you for dancing with me. That's always my favorite part. That's always my favorite part. I love to see the people laugh and the people move, and I made a fool of myself first, so you guys don't have to be self-conscious about that. Forget the dance. Imagine starting your meetings with 5 minutes of active, constructive responding. So you're gathered with your team and you say something like, so who has some good news to share? And we're all gonna give you some active, constructive responding, right? We're all gonna ask you one question about your good news so that you can tell us more about it. And then you might say, well, aren't people gonna know that we're trying to active, constructive respond to them? The answer is yes, and it works anyway. So this is a great way to bond if you invest 5 minutes in your meetings to do that. Again, getting the positive vibes going for your team, making sure that people get to know one another a little bit more specifically, making sure that they feel like everybody has their back, and making sure that we get the positive vibes going so that people become more creative, innovative, and all of those other benefits that I've already spoken about. Now, it's always good to double check if we are doing what we think we're doing, right? I've just shared with you 6 strategies to create more positivity, more meaning, more care and compassion in the workplace. But it's good to double check and make sure that we're actually doing as well as we think we are. So one day I am texting my assistant, whom at the time was male. And when you have a French accent and you talk to Siri, she doesn't always understand exactly what you're saying. And actually my husband said that I should have written, what is the news? But what I told Siri was, what are the news? Because that's what I wanted to know and that's how I thought it was said. So I text my assistant what I think is what are the news. What Siri sent was something slightly different. And that led to much embarrassment on my part. Because the response was like, MJ? Always good to double check. So here's how you can double check if you are actually doing the behaviors that you think you are doing. So here on the y-axis, you write some caring behaviors, things that tell your employees, your peers, the people you work with, I know you, I care about you, and I want to know what's up for you, right? Learn about their reality, whether it's at work or at home. Try and offer some gratitude, offer some support. If they are your direct report, try and promote career development for them. Smile, bond, instill confidence, be forgiving, show meaning, these kinds of things. All kinds of positivity-inducing behaviors. You don't have to write exactly those ones on your chart. Write the ones that feel most natural to you. And then on the x-axis, you write the names of the people you work closely with, or your direct reports, or the people that you feel you need to improve your relationship with the most. And as you go through your week, every time you perform one of these behaviors for one of these individuals, you give yourself a check mark. That's what I call the reality check. And maybe you'll realize that you think you're great at offering support, but you actually don't do it that often. Or maybe you'll realize that you give so much more attention to Jill than you do Steve that it may explain some unhealthy competition that there are between the two of them. Maybe you'll realize that you are doing great, and that will just a way to keep track and make sure that you continue to do great with your caring behaviors so that you are instilling that culture where people feel at home at work. Now, if you want to go one step further, you may want to consider including the positivity questions as well as those reality check questions as part of your HR processes. So consider interviewing a new candidate. And instead of just asking the regular repertoire of questions you typically ask, you added an extra question in there as for example, we have an attitude of gratitude around here. How do you see yourself contributing? When do you find yourself most engaged? What brings meaning to your workday? And your candidates might go like, what? And then you know that this is not someone who will contribute to that culture. Other candidates will be super energized by these questions and be so thankful you've asked, and then you'll know that those are the personalities that can feed that friendlier vibes that you are trying to create. Imagine making those questions part of your criteria when you are considering a promotion from within. Imagine that being part of your performance evaluations. So tell me a little bit more about whom do you support? Tell me a little bit more about how you show care and compassion in the workplace. Tell me about how you learn about your peers' reality. When people realize that you do that as part of what is formalized, they will know that you take it seriously. They will know that there is a shift happening, and that will give them permission to be human. I said earlier, sometimes we don't even find time to say hello to a coworker. Well, after things like that, they might just decide that now it's time that they find the time. We find time for what we think is priority. Now, some of you may think, MJ, this is all good and dandy, but to me, this is all rainbows and unicorns, and I am crumbling under the pressures of the work. The pace of change is unsustainable. My to-do list is long. I'm doing the job of 3 individuals, and your unicorns and rainbows sound good, but in a different circumstance, I might pay attention. Right now, I can't. Here's my response to you. The suggestions that I have made today take no additional time in your calendar. They just take a different approach to what you're already spending time doing. So I can't change the amount of work that you have, and neither can you, or you would have already done it. So let's not worry about what we can't do, and let's focus on what we can. The last of human liberties is to choose our attitude. So as you are facing that tremendous pace of change, as you are facing that never-ending to-do list, which probably got a tiny bit shorter thanks to our meeting activity, you can do it thinking about the deadlines, the challenges, the complaints, the hassles, and all of that, and burn out. Or you can try and bring positivity, levity, friendliness, meaning, joy, and thrive. The choice is yours. You don't need more time. You just need a different approach in order to do that. So I would like you to turn to your handouts, and you will see a chart that's already printed for you, and it says pick, pledge, and plan. So out of all of the strategies that I have shared with you this morning, I would like you to take a moment to put a check mark next to all of those that you think would be enjoyable for you to use. One more check mark for all of those that you think would be simple for you to use, easily achieved. And one more check mark for those that you feel would have some good impact for you and your team. And if there are strategies, or however many strategies you end up having placed 3 check marks for, also in your handout you will find a little postcard. And at the back of that postcard it says, Dear me, comma, and then home sweet home. So what I would like you to do is to write those strategies on the postcard to yourself. Here's the strategy that I want to use, and here's my plan. In 30 days from today, when you have started to forget everything we've talked about this morning, I will mail that card back to you at the address you will have identified. I promise you never to mark your address anywhere. I hate unwanted mail. I love trees. I promise I will never mail you anything else. I will never mark your address anywhere. I will never sell it to anybody. I won't even look at it. All I'll do is put a stamp on it and mail it back to you so that in 30 days from today, you have a reminder of what your intention was this morning to start using to change your life and that of those around you. So take a few minutes to fill that out. I would like to finish up this morning with a final story. I was going to say 5 years ago. It's now longer than that. Several years ago, after graduating from a master's degree, I felt like I had spent too much time with my nose in books. I'm a nerd, and so it was time for me to try something slightly different, and I wanted to explore my creativity, and I decided to do it with painting. There's quite a few people in my family that are good painters, and I thought, well, maybe I can do it too, except that I wasn't really confident, so I chose paint by numbers, and I painted Snoopy. What you see here is the representation of 4 blissful hours of my life where I let my brain take some air, maybe with 2 eyes, and have just fun to explore something a little bit different. Now, my husband really liked Snoopy, and he's always so supportive that he said, "Hey, sweetie, I like Snoopy. I think I'm going to put him in my office." And I said, "Whoa, hold on. If you want to put one of my paintings in your office, I shall paint something worthy of your office." And that's when I set out to paint Venice. Now it was still paint by numbers, but instead of a 4x8 canvas, I had a 16x20. Instead of a small brush and a big brush, I had now 4 different shapes and sizes. Instead of 8 colors to play with, I had 32 colors to play with. Much more ambitious project. Would you like to see Venice? Anana! Yeah, it's still very white. And I don't know if you can tell that we still see like a lot of numbers. Venice is the result of 40 gruesome hours of my life, after which I said, yeah, honey, you were right, let's frame Snoopy. I went from something that was small and manageable to something that was big, cumbersome, and that just took all the joy out of the process. Now, I've been talking a lot about making a culture shift in your organizations. And if you're waiting for it to come from the top, it will be Venice. It will come with organizational charts and communication plans and the do's and don't do's and all of that big chain of events that come when an organization as a whole is trying to bring about some change. But if it's you trying to change you and your team, then it can be Snoopy. And you can bring happiness to yourself and those around you much more simply, just one little wow at a time. Thank you.